Good morning, Metta.
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Good morning,
Happy
Paul.
Friday. Thank you so
Happy
much for
Friday.
joining with us, even though it is somewhat of a very deep matter that we're going to be discussing on a Friday, but it's okay. As Paula stated, it is the end of the month. So, we have to talk about this.
Think about money at the end of the month, don't we?
That's right.
A little extra.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, Metta has previously mentioned from the World Bank that estimate that U.S. and Europe will head towards recession in 2023. And how big of an impact would it affect the world?
Well, I think it's inevitable, right? Because it's going to happen around the world. So including us, we will be impacted. So what happens right now? I think the government is already predicted, and they will manage. And there's a monetary policies, and there's also encouragement to the people, to the household, to manage their financial well during this. Actually, we were in the midst of the recovering time, right? But again, things is still happening right now. So
there's some setbacks.
Yeah, so we still need to be careful in managing our monies, and the government too is going to be very careful in setting up the policies.
Yeah.
So over the past several months, Metta, we've also seen prices continue to go up. We've reported on it here almost on a daily basis with the rise of electricity prices, then fuel prices, and oil, cooking oil. And we've now seen as well prices continue to rise when it comes to inflation. Obviously the government is trying to manage that. So there's also been a decrease of employment. We've seen companies letting go of some employees as well. Are any of these signs, or together perhaps combined signs of a possible recession within our own country?
Yes, because it's actually the one of the impacts. The biggest impact from the recession is the price hikes, right?
Right.
And because of the war, the oil price hikes, and it affects all the transportation, the energy costs, and it has the effects to the other commodities prices, right? And when it affects the world, of course it's going to affect us as well, because the supply chain of the food or the oil industry is everywhere. So for us as a customer, of course the increase of the prices means that we have to expend more. Our expenditure is increasing.
Yes.
And the challenge is that is our income increasing? Well, actually, during this recession, because of the oil price hikes, the government has to take a policy of increasing the interest rate. If the interest rate rises, then it impacts the business, because then the business has to manage their expenses carefully, right? They have to cut down expenses, the operational expenses, the marketing expenses, and of course, it may include the employee expenses, the salary and benefit, and maybe there's some reductions as well in the companies. So maybe we can see right now that some companies have already made some layoffs. And so again, the challenges is that the prices increases, but our income may be stable, or even worse, we can get less income, right? So that's why it's going to be challenges for us. So yes, that could be the sign of the recession coming up, but we have to see it upfront, so we have to be prepared for it, right?
Yes, preparing the umbrella before it rains, and it seems that we are prepared for that. Now, of course, the recession will hit hard to any countries, yet alone the government and also individual households. What can we do to weather the recession in the household level, though, Metta?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is, of course, we need to keep the income coming, right? Of course, right now, if we as employees, we have a job, we have to keep to that job, or if we're doing business, we have to ensure that all the sales are still going, right? And of course, once we keep the income, we have to manage the expenses as we understand that the price increases. So that's why we have to ensure that our budget is still within the range, right? So maybe there should be some reprioritizing of your expenses, some reallocating.
Like holiday budgets?
Right. Yeah, we're coming to the end of the year, right?
Yes.
Yes. And of course, then we have to ensure that our money that we have to be liquid enough.
Correct.
To anticipate what is coming in the next few months, right? So that's why if we have some savings, if we have to maintain our investment, we have to ensure that the money is there. That's why we have to be carefully selecting on where to put our money in, because again, liquidity is the king right now.
Yeah, well, I've also heard that whenever we're facing any kind of recession, the worst thing that consumers can do is not spend money because it actually makes it worse. So how do we then go forward if we're trying to, if a lot of us are earning the same money or income, and we're trying to still manage, okay, we have to pay more for things, so that means I have to spend less, but spending less is actually not great for our economy either. So what is the best middle ground for us to find a place where we can still survive and not worsen the inflation or the recession?
Right. From the point of view of a country, of a nations, right? The consumption is very important because that's what makes the economies moving, right?
Correct.
Growing. Right. And so, from the individual level as well, we still have to consume because that's how we continue to live, right?
Yes.
So that's why I think from the point of view of the government itself, that's how they try to manage the level of interest rate. Like for example, right now, the interest rate is increasing, right? But if you talk about the deposit rate, the safe deposit in the banks, it is still managed to be low because what? Because the government wants the money to be
flow. Right.
Flowing, right?
Continue.
So they are not going to. So the employee will still thinking that okay, maybe putting it in deposits will not be beneficial enough right now.
Right.
Considering the inflation is also rising up. So that's why we should think of how to ensure that we need to consume, but again we prioritize of what is actually important. And of course when we talk about some sectors that is very related to consumers, like consumer goods, they will still be growing because there's the basic necessities of individuals.
Correct.
And for the household expense, other household expenses is also very likely to be spent as well, right?
Yes.
But again, I think as I mentioned earlier to you, Carol, we're in the process of recovering, and since with the release of lockdown, with the less restrictions around, people are thinking of now it's the time for us to keep on going.
Yeah, we're trying to enjoy life now, and
yeah,
suddenly
and we need to be productive, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
people will still going to to office, to travel, to do some business. So I think for that things, it's still going to be happen. But again, we have to survive, but we have to be productive as well. So we are in the defensive mode, but we have to be, still continue to.
Yeah, that's what I love about what Metta is saying right here, because challenges and obstacles, just like recession, we've been there before, right? And doesn't mean that we're not moving forward in our life, and we can do so as of we speak right now. Especially right now, the world is into recovery. Now, you were talking about liquidified investment, about Metta. Now, here is stated the price of gold soared yesterday to 10,000 rupiah per gram. So you were saying before that it is a good time that we save up our money or invest something that is liquefied, just like this precious metal, like a gold. Would you
I knew you would have a gold-related question.
Can you see?
You love their gold.
We talked about that a few months back.
I know. We talked with this with you, Metta, and it seems like the price, or the investment goes up and down, especially with gold, right? It's very fluctuative. But right now, it seems it becomes the best of deal. Well, what's your take on that?
Well, yeah, gold is always the king when it comes to recession. When there's a negative sentiments, the gold will be, like a star. But right now it's a bit of anomaly because now a few weeks back in last few weeks, the gold price is actually decreasing.
Oh, is it decreasing? But not as, is it slightly? But
Slightly, but
Asking for a
I got so many gold. It's like,
how bad are we talking here?
yeah. So right now the market is a bit different because when we heard about the recession is coming, the price of gold is actually decreasing, and now the stock market is actually now is rising up, right? So we have to be very selective, be careful. When to buy, right?
Correct.
And some people said that of course gold is not going to be because it's decreasing, so it's not going to be favorable right now.
Yes.
But I think it's good to manage some of your portfolio into gold because again it is safe haven, right?
Yes.
It's going to balance your portfolio. So right now when the price is decreasing, you have to think whether right now is actually the time to buy. Because I
Correct.
mean, like
Listen to that, Paul.
If
Well,
we
I was going to
anticipate,
make Caroline an offer on some of her gold there after the show.
right? Yeah. So I mean, like if we anticipate that the
Yes.
recession is still coming, so I think gold should be considered as one of your investment.
Good time to buy, possibly.
Yes.
So, speaking of anticipation, then, Metta, what what I've done at home is since the electricity prices and fuel prices have gone up.
Yes.
At first, I tried to ignore it, but just thinking, oh, well, I guess I'll just be spending more for things. But after a few months have gone by, I noticed, hey, this is accumulation. I mean, I'm not
Yes.
just buying gas once.
Right.
I'm buying it on almost a weekly basis.
Yes.
I'm paying for electricity a lot more often. I'm filling up that little
Yes.
box now. So I've started to try to cut down on other expenses a little bit. But overall, how can we prepare the general public for a not only Indonesian recession, but a global recession? What are some of the things that we need to perhaps get ready or start doing from now?
Well, I think when we talk about the household economies, the main items to be managed is the cash flow, right? So we have to make a budgeting. Like you mentioned, when you suddenly realize that your post on electricity is increasing, or your post of the transportation cost, your fuel is increasing. So it means that you have to rebalance with your other expenses. And again, if we know that our income is still available, stable, so we have to manage that. We have to manage this level of savings itself.
Yeah.
Right. So first, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have to maintain the liquidity as well. So I mean, like. Right now, and we learn from the pandemic, right, that the emergency fund is important. So the emergency fund itself is reflecting our liquidity. So I mean, if we have about 6 to 12 months of emergency fund from our monthly expenditures, that could be considered a bit safe, right? And of course, since I mentioned earlier that when we talk about investment, we have to be in a defensive mode. So I think we have to balance our portfolio right now. And I mean, like if we put some cash, about maybe 15 to 20% of our portfolio, then I think then we have to manage the other part. When we talk about cash, maybe cash and the cash equivalents, and then maybe you put some gold on it, and then all other financial instruments.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course we have to maintain as well the credit level. Yeah, try to, well. From the household point of view, we have to manage that when we have a debt,
Yes.
it should be productive. But of course, if you have some borrowings, it will help you to consume as well, right? But we have to manage. We have to keep it liquid in the monthly, right?
But by productive debt, you mean like if we have a mortgage on a house, like that's
Yeah.
towards an investment as well.
Right.
Correct?
Because if we have a mortgage on the house, means that we have to pay the monthly monthly installments.
Right.
But the price of the property itself is going to be increasing along
Correct.
the years, so that could be considered productive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what needs to be avoided is the consumptive debt, right? Like when we
Credit cards.
Yes.
credit
there you go.
cards and borrow money to holidays. I think
Yes.
that's something to be avoided, I think.
Yeah, and it's good that, Metta, you mentioned a lot of key points. Manage your money right now. Manage your savings, and be very picky on your investments and the instruments that you have for you to invest. And also, to survive to this, you have to be very productive. And I think, for the general public, even for myself, listening or hearing that we're coming into recession, it is, giving us a worry and, giving a lot of public into a frenzy. So how can we survive this recessions? We've already seen amid of rising costs right now, fuel prices coming up high, staples and living expenses, just as mentioned, and Paul, gas and everything is just price hike as of right now. So how can we survive this other than being productive, like you said?
Well, being productive means that maybe you should find some more side hustles, maybe.
Right,
yeah?
that's good.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I think right now, since because now we have less restrictions of PPKB or PPKM,
Yes.
whatever it is. Yeah, so it's time for us to actually keep on moving.
Yeah.
Keep on
Being
working,
creative
being
and whatnot.
creative.
Yes.
Keep on consuming as well.
Yeah.
The thing is, right? But I think that's what I like about Indonesia, because the people here are so creative and we have this gotong royong spirit.
Yes.
that we will always be helping each other to recover together, right?
Yes.
So that's why the UMKM, the small businesses is actually increasing right now.
Right.
So, and we see from the pandemic as well, the household industries is, they can do it. I mean, like, since with the technology as well, we have now the e-commerce, we have the, the internet that's helping us to do some businesses. That may be something we should leverage on.
Yeah.
It's true. We got
Well said.
With all these, I always, do my expenses in columns, and those columns that you mentioned about transportation, living costs, it's all going
Yes.
up. My income column is kind of like staying there. I got to get that up
Stagnant?
somehow. Yeah, I got to find a way to get that out to balance things out.
And it's good, but that's like hustle on the sidebar. I love that,
But of
Why do you
course,
think I look so sleepy? Got a little side
but
hustle.
still, we have to be very careful, because I think right now, maybe in the future, still there's a lot of uncertainties.
Of
So, I
course.
mean, like, if we want to find something else, we have to be very careful of not make some big decisions in a rush. So we have to be very careful on, make any kind of consideration before we make any decision, especially things that has impacted to your finance.
Very
Thank-
diligent and vigilant also.
Right, thank you for that reminder, because if we don't need a global recession.
Yeah.
Remember COVID-19, that wiped us out economically for a very long time in the
Yes.
entire world. Nobody had any exception to it. So we kind of, like you said, if we were prepared for an emergency, that was certainly an emergency that nobody saw coming as well. So hopefully we will be prepared next time around. So for something like a global recession, something that is more predictable, that hopefully we are better prepared.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Metta, for dropping by the way.
Thank
It is
you, Paul.
Friday, so we hope you have a nice weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you so much,
Carol.
Metta.
Always
Recover
great.
stronger, recover together, guys.
Right.